Remember when we were kids? Like, running around, no phones, just playing till the streetlights came on?
Oh, yeah.
It feels like childhood has changed so much, especially with, all the technology and smartphones and everything.
Yeah?
And, you're curious about how this phone-based childhood, I guess we can call it, is affecting kids' mental health, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay.
With Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation.
It's a really fascinating look at how childhood itself has been reshaped.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the unintended consequences, right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of scary.
Exactly. So our mission today is to uncover some of the trends that Haidt lays out in the book,
Okay.
explore his argument about this phone-based childhood, and see what it all means, for you as the listener and for the young people in your life.
Right.
So first up, the statistics.
Yeah.
That kind of kicked this whole investigation off.
Right. And Haidt doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
He highlights this huge, dramatic rise, really, in depression and anxiety among, teens and young adults. And it starts in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about a slight uptick.
Right.
On a lot of the measures of mental illness, the rates have doubled.
Wow.
Sometimes even more.
One statistic that really got me was that by 2020,
Yeah.
1 in 4 high school girls in the U.S.
Wow.
had experienced a major depressive episode in just the past year.
That's incredible.
And that was before the pandemic even fully hit.
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
It's why
These trends were already surging before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Added all the stress and disruption, all that.
Another layer to everything.
Yeah, and what's really striking is that this sharp increase, it really seems to mostly affect Gen Z with some, I guess, spillover to younger millennials.
Yeah, the older generations aren't seeing these same increases at all.
That's wild.
So we're not talking about just a few isolated cases here.
No, not at all.
This is a generational shift, it feels like. Something bigger has changed,
Absolutely.
in the way that young people are experiencing the world.
Precisely. And it's worth pointing out that we're mainly seeing a rise in what are called internalizing disorders, like depression, anxiety, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Which are different from externalizing disorders.
Gotcha. So
which tend to be more, outwardly directed behaviors.
So internalizing is more kind of in your own head and being more quiet about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a pressure cooker. Building up steam inside.
Right.
While externalizing is more like a volcano, erupting outwards.
I like that.
That's a good analogy.
That is a good analogy.
Both are serious, but they manifest very differently.
Right, and one's definitely more visible
Absolutely.
to the outside world than the other one.
And that makes the internalizing disorders harder to spot.
Right.
They often show up as withdrawal, sadness, fear.
Oh, interesting.
Rather than, acting out.
Okay.
Have you noticed these trends at all in your own life?
I mean, anecdotally, I have.
Yeah.
I know a few parents who are really struggling with their kids' anxiety or depression, and it does seem more common, especially among teenagers and young adults. So.
And that aligns with, what Haidt describes.
Okay.
And he really argues that a major contributing factor is this shift.
Okay.
From a childhood, I guess, built around free play, exploring, doing your own thing.
Right, like we were talking about.
To one dominated by, smartphones and social media, which is what he calls phone-based childhood.
Right.
Where, kids' main source of interaction, entertainment, even social connection happens through their phone.
It's crazy to think about.
It's a fundamental shift from previous generations.
Yeah.
When we were kids, we
were always outside, playing, using our imaginations.
Linking up games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of free play, it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's really vital for healthy development.
Absolutely. It helps kids build social skills, resilience, creativity, problem solving. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
The benefit.
Yeah, it's like we just figured it out.
Yeah. You learn how to be a person.
Yeah, exactly.
By being a person with other people.
By doing stuff.
Yeah.
But Haidt points out that free play actually started declining back in the 1980s.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a while ago.
Yeah. We started seeing a rise in structured activities, earlier exposure to screens in general.
Okay.
And this growing emphasis on academic achievement.
Yeah, even before smartphones, it sounds like things were already starting to shift.
A little bit, yeah, but the real turning point, the big one, according to Haidt, was the arrival of the smartphone
Okay.
in the early 2010s.
So that was the big one.
That was it. That's what really ushered in this, phone-based childhood
Okay.
and seemed to accelerate all of the negative trends.
Interesting. So it wasn't just like computers or TV,
Not in the same way.
but smartphones were like the big...
That was the tipping point.
That was the tipping point.
Yeah, like things had already been shifting,
Right.
but the smartphone comes along,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly it's like,
Yeah.
everything's different.
Wow. And that's where it gets really interesting
Yeah.
because hate actually links smartphones to mental health struggles in some pretty surprising ways, right? Like it's not all obvious what's
Yeah.
going on.
He lays out more than 12 specific mechanisms
Wow.
by which smartphones could be, impacting kids' mental well-being.
Okay.
Ready to dive into some of those.
Let's do it.
So one of the mechanisms that really stood out to me
Okay.
was sleep deprivation.
Okay.
We know, like, teenagers are already prone to staying up late,
Right.
sleeping in,
Yeah.
but their constant access to smartphones and social media makes it so much worse.
Oh, it's like you're battling a million tiny little flashing lights.
Yeah. It's a digital rabbit hole.
Totally. Like who can resist scrolling through TikTok or Instagram when you should be sleeping?
Yeah, and it's not just about willpower.
Right.
The blue light emitted from these devices actually interferes with melatonin production,
Right.
the hormone that helps us fall asleep.
Yeah, Haidt talks about how crucial sleep is,
Oh, yeah.
especially for teenagers, and not just for their physical health,
Right.
but for, things like emotional regulation.
Yeah, how well they think.
Yeah.
Like, it affects everything.
Everything.
Studies have shown that sleep-deprived teens, they're way more likely to have mood swings, be irritable,
Makes sense.
struggle with anxiety, even depression.
I'm getting tired just thinking about it.
Maybe it's a good reminder for all of us
Yeah.
to put the phones away an hour or two before bed.
Seriously.
But sleep deprivation is just one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Another fascinating mechanism Haidt explores is attention fragmentation.
Okay, attention fragmentation.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of intense.
It's a mouthful.
What exactly does that mean?
So think about it this way.
Okay.
Smartphones are designed to constantly grab our attention.
No, yeah.
With notifications, updates,
Yeah.
endless streams of content.
You're always being like pinged or buzzed or something.
Yeah.
Like our devices are training us to be distracted.
That's exactly it.
It's wild.
All of that stimulation
Yeah.
actually trains our brains for distraction.
Wow.
It makes it harder to focus,
Okay.
learn to really engage deeply with anything.
It's so true. Like I think about reading a book
Yeah,
compared to how I used to read a book before smartphones.
totally.
And it's so much harder to just sit down and focus.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's a great example of it.
Okay.
And it's a huge concern,
Yeah.
especially for young people
Right.
whose brains are still developing.
Yeah.
Haidt argues that this attention fragmentation
Yeah.
could be contributing to a lot of the anxiety
Right.
and sense of just feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, like your brain is just used to constantly being stimulated.
Right.
And when it's not, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah, we don't know how to just be anymore.
It's like we always need to be doing something.
We've got to be stimulated.
We got to be stimulated. And then, like, you add social media on top of all that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, how can kids not be on it these days?
Right. And that's where Haidt's research on, social comparison and perfectionism comes in.
Okay.
He really argues that social media, feeds these anxieties.
Yeah.
Especially for girls.
Makes sense.
By creating, unrealistic expectations.
Right.
And this constant pressure
Yeah.
to present this perfect image.
It's true. You're always seeing these images of people with, the perfect bodies, perfect lives, perfect everything. Like, no wonder so many young people feel like they just don't measure up.
It's the danger of, the curated self. People only present the best versions of themselves online.
Right.
Which, of course, can make others feel like they don't measure up.
Like everyone's living their best life on Instagram.
Exactly.
While you're at home in your pajamas trying to get through Monday.
Totally. And Haidt really argues that this pressure to present this perfect self
Yeah.
is even more intense for girls.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Girls are often raised with this, focus on their appearance.
Right.
And what other people think of them.
Yeah.
So they're probably more vulnerable to those negative effects.
Exactly.
My niece is in middle school, and she's constantly comparing herself to other girls on Instagram,
Oh, yeah.
stressing about how many likes her posts get.
So common.
It's heartbreaking
It is.
to see like how much pressure she feels to look and act a certain way.
It's a really tough landscape
Yeah.
for young people to navigate.
For
And, while we've been focusing on the pressures that girls face,
Right.
it's important to remember that boys are experiencing their own crisis, too.
That's such a good point. It's not just a girl problem.
Not at all.
Hey, it talks about a boy crisis too, right?
He does. He really delves into how boys are
Yay.
increasingly withdrawing from the real world
Okay.
and retreating into, these virtual spaces like video games, online communities, even like pornography.
So instead of going outside to play, they're inside on their screens all day.
Yeah, basically.
I can see how that could be a problem.
Exactly. And this can lead to social isolation,
Yeah.
stunted emotional development,
Right.
problems forming, meaningful relationships.
It's like they're not getting that real world practice.
Yeah, and they're missing out on so much.
It made me think of that story in the book about James,
Oh, yeah.
the boy who got really obsessed with Fortnite during the pandemic.
Right. That's a powerful example
Yeah.
of how quickly these virtual worlds can just take over.
Totally.
Especially for boys who might already be struggling with social anxiety or other challenges. Remember how his parents were talking about him?
Yeah.
He said he was depressed, angry, lazy.
It's so sad.
And he had no friends
Yeah.
outside of his online gaming community.
It really got me thinking about how this could impact boys in the long term. Struggles in school, at work, relationships.
Absolutely. These are serious consequences.
Yeah.
We got to be aware of.
Have you noticed these patterns at all in any boys that you know?
Oh,
This kind of withdrawing from real world interactions?
I think, yeah.
Or maybe just this strong preference for spending time in those virtual spaces?
Yeah, I mean, my neighbor's son, he spends most of his free time
Yeah.
in his room playing video games.
Yeah.
He rarely comes outside or interacts with other kids.
Oh, wow.
And his mom's really worried about him.
Yeah, I bet.
But she doesn't know how to get him to engage more with the real world.
That balance is so hard to find.
It is. It's a challenge I
Yeah.
think we're all grappling with
Totally.
as individuals,
Yeah,
families, and as a society.
for sure. So this has been a lot.
Yeah.
We've talked about the trends in youth mental health, smartphones rewiring childhood, and the challenges that boys and girls are facing today.
It's complex, but
Yeah.
Hate's book has given us some good insights.
It's definitely eye-opening.
Yeah.
And it's not just a problem for kids and their families,
Right.
right? What does it mean if childhood is being reshaped in such a dramatic way for, the future of society as a whole?
That's the big question.
It's a little scary to think about.
It is. If we're raising a generation
Right.
that's struggling with these things,
Mm-hmm.
less resilient, less socially adept,
Yeah.
more prone to mental health challenges,
Right.
how will that impact our workforce, our communities,
Right.
even our democracy?
Yeah, it's a big question.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that Hate doesn't just leave us with the doom and gloom.
He doesn't.
He offers some potential solutions.
He does.
At least, ways to start to tackle this.
Yeah, starting points,
Right.
things to think about.
Exactly. She talks about, setting boundaries
Yeah.
around technology use.
Encouraging more free play,
Yeah.
those real-world interactions.
Yeah, which we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And finding ways to, to foster that sense of community and belonging.
Oh, that's a good point for
Yeah.
young people. And
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like he's saying it's all on parents.
No, not at all.
It sounds more like a collective effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to take schools,
Yeah.
tech companies,
Policymakers,
everyone needs to be involved.
this is a systemic issue
Yeah.
that requires systemic solutions.
We can't just put it all on parents.
Right, exactly.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
It's been really eye-opening to see how different the world is
Yeah.
for kids today
Yeah, the challenges are real,
and what they're up against.
for sure.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to break all this down with me today.
Yeah, it's been a good conversation.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah.
So listeners, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Share this episode with anyone you think might find it insightful.
And let's all start talking about how to create
Ah.
a brighter future for our kids.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.